Yes, hello one and all, and welcome to another episode of Spillin the Beans. After that quite extensive unbeaten run, we're now just talking beaten runs. So let's meet the guests and find out what they've got to say. Dave, hello, good evening.
Good evening, how are you doing, mate? You alright?
Not too bad at all. How are you keeping?
I'm top of the pops, mate, ready to go.
Keeping warm? Are you kind of a frugal guy who just sort of doesn't put the heating on till February?
No, I've got 3 females in the house, so our heating's on full blast as soon as the mercury dips below, 16 or something like that. So, devil may care attitude towards the heating bill, I'm afraid.
Yeah. And you know us at Spillin the Beans as well, we're very much like kind of CNN or something like that in many ways, because when there's a big thing happening, we like to get a man on the scene. And with us playing in Wales this weekend, knowing that country will be buzzing with anticipation of the arrival of Barra Soccer, we thought we'd bring Johnny McNamee in. How's it going?
Hello, Johnny. Yeah, well, thank you. Very well.
Yeah, we might have to. I think I'll go with Johnny Mac tonight, so we don't do that kind of Johnny thing.
I was going to say there's a lot of Johnnies and there's a lot of McMenamies. I think McMenamies make up about 20% of the guests on this podcast.
They do, yeah. It's very much a family affair, and I'm always tempted to put like 7 more N's in your name when I say it. It's like McMenamin at the end of it. I can't ever quite pronounce that, even though kind of me and Andy and Phil and stuff go way back. Never kind of got round to it, but it's a fantastic name. It's kind of a bit showbiz, that name, isn't it? Johnny McNamee.
Yep, it is. Yeah.
You can get it right. So yeah, very much of Barra Soccer Twitter fame. You're known for your views on there. So we thought we'll get a little bit of that on Spillin the Beans. And let's dive into it.
That was the week that was. It's over. Let it go.
So Dave, I'll come to you first after your brilliant match report, by the way. And for those who listen to Spillin the Beans and don't know that, pretty much every game now, I think we're 100% record this season. We produce a match report on the website, so any Newport County fans listening in and might want to find out a little bit about the thoughts of the Given Beans crew. After the game, they can head to the website at the beginning of the week to find out that. It's always a little bit tongue-in-cheek and always a little bit kind of satire and stuff, being a fanzine like we are. But Dave, was kind of pretty hard-hitting this week in terms of the kind of optimism versus pessimism. It was typical kind of Barra Soccer bipolar behaviour over the last couple of weeks, isn't it? 1 minute we're good and next minute we're not.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote it on Sunday morning when I'd kind of had a chance to digest the performance and kind of gather my thoughts. I must admit, if I'd have got the laptop out at 5 o'clock on Asda car park, it'd have been kind of a lot more of a darker piece. There'd have been a lot more expletives throughout it. I wasn't best chuffed walking out of Holker Street on Saturday. It was just disappointing. I think the whole the whole performance, the whole way we went about it was disappointing. We talked about how we needed to be positive, and I think, to be fair to Wing, he picked a positive team. We had, if you squinted at it, it was 3 up front, wasn't it? Because it was Gordon, Hemmings, and Mahoney. But it's just the way that it kind of, I think, it unravelled after about 20 minutes or so, where, and it wasn't the fact that Cambridge were all over us. They were, they were an all right team, but they weren't what you'd call, a good team. It's just the way that I think the shape kind of collapsed a bit, as I put in my report. Like, Gordon ended up on the halfway line trying to chase the ball. Mahoney was falling deeper and deeper, and he was playing on the half turn like he tends to do. And I think, to be fair to Mahoney, when you get him in good areas and point him in the right direction, he can be a real asset to the team in terms of, keeping the ball and being positive. But on Saturday, it just wasn't happening. And the times we were getting in good areas down that right-hand side, particularly, there was no kind of end product to it. And, I said it in the report, I did a bit for Radio Cumbria the other night. That chance that Harper missed, that header, he'll be having nightmares about it all week, I'm sure, because the type of team we are, where we don't score lots and lots of goals. To get a free header, centre of the goal, literally got the goalkeeper to beat, and he was planted in the middle of it. it's just disappointing. You've got to put chances like that away. So yeah, on the Sunday, I wrote the report. I thought I'd try and be a bit balanced. You know, I kind of sent a text to a couple of mates who support other teams in League Two, kind of, you know, try and get the outside view of, you know, what do you think of how Barrow are doing this season? And they kind of said, well, you know, you kind of lower mid-table, not quite in the relegation scrap, but you could be in a couple of weeks. And that's kind of where we expect Barrow to be, which I don't know. I think that the back end of last season, we were kind of playoff form, weren't we, under Wing, to his credit. And I know we had the big turnover in the summer, and I know we had the injuries and everything we've talked about previously. And it's one of them where we're still kind of walking the tightrope of, you know, 2 results and we could be underneath that dotted line, but, you know, 2 good results and we could be, you know, halfway and looking upwards. So I don't know. I think it's that precariousness of it that kind of maybe causes that mood swing amongst the support. Plus the fact, let's face it, we have got a decent amount of fans who will jump on any kind of negative result or, you know, anything negative, and they'll amplify it to, you know, multiply it by 100 and it's the worst thing ever, and, you know, sell everyone, sack everyone and knock the ground down and, you know, salt the earth and start from scratch again. You know, it's one of them.
Knock the ground down, is that
before it falls down? Yeah.
Yeah. I suppose talking about the different and diverse set of opinions within our fan base, Johnny Mac, I'd have you down as one of the more kind of glass half empty. You never strike me as one of the most optimistic fans on Twitter. Is this kind of chickens coming home to roost for you after that unbeaten run, or was even yourself getting a little bit carried away?
I think my glass is still very much half full and half empty. I'm certainly not panicking yet. I did get a few messages after the game saying it was such a poor performance, but I think I'm not quite there yet. I'm certainly not panicking. I thought there was some positives. I thought Andy Wing was correct that I thought for large majority of the game we were in it. And by those fine margins, like Dave said, Harper's chance, Hemming's chance, Adupoku's chance, we were good for a point or even 3. I just think it went the other way. It went the other way. The second goal was, I mean, we wouldn't be defending like that if it was 0-0, I don't think. So I think that second goal you can kind of chalk off as a bit of an anomaly. But I think there was positives. I think McCann, I think Winterbottom, I think even Hemmings to an extent. I think there was some positives in there, albeit, yes, there was some negatives, but that is League Two football. I mean, you miss your chances. You don't end up winning the game, and like we say over and over, the team who scores first in League Two is very much going to come out on top. So to conclude, I'm not quite in panic stations yet. I don't want to demolish the Ray Wilkie stand. I'm not quite there yet, but come 5 o'clock Saturday, I might have the bulldozer keys in my hand. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll come to the Newport game in a bit, because I suppose a lot is riding on that in terms of how we'll probably feel this time next week. Dave mentioned there Mahoney, Johnny. Just interested kind of your thoughts on it, because I feel like not trying to put words into your mouth, I think the absence of Barkhuizen and Mahoney just kind of having that spot week after week, I think that's had quite a big impact on us. And Mahoney never really seemed to be one of them players who's really took off for us since Clement bought him from Gillingham. Jury just constantly seems to be out on him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's produced much. I think maybe 1 or 2 assists, the odd goal here and there across the 2 seasons. So I think he would probably look at himself and say that he's probably not had the best period. But I think one of the positives from Saturday is that Wing said that Barkhuizen isn't far off. So we're hoping that he's going to be involved for Newport, and that he can slot back in and perhaps give Mahoney a rest and perhaps let him take a step back and analyse his own performance and hopefully kick on from that.
I think he was more positive when, if we were playing that lone central striker, I think when we had, say, Fletcher and Mahoney behind him and it was more central, I think we were more effective. But it's just the way that it panned out on Saturday, and I don't know whether that was the tactical plan or just the way that the game developed. But they both seemed to just kind of melt away from that kind of central supporting role, and they both kind of were deeper and a bit wider. And I don't know, the shape just didn't seem to work. As I say, whether it's whether it was the plan to get the wing backs even more advanced than they would be, and therefore you kind of fill in. But it just felt as though it was, again, we were going back to that old Barrow thing of attacking in 1s and 2s rather than 3s, 4s and 5s.
Yeah, I agree with what you say, Dave. There, in the second half, in the first half, especially, Mahoney was deep. He was very deep, but he has got a good touch. He very rarely loses the ball, whether it goes forwards or not. As per the popular side's instructions, it is not always the case. But there was an occasion in the first half where I don't know if I had to double take. He beat a man. Now, we've not seen a lot of this recently, and you have to go back to the days of Lewis Almond to when we last beat a man, but he beat a man, so I see that as a positive.
He's got it in his locker. Yeah, I think if you put it all together and, on his day, he can be a right menace, but it's kind of few and far between that we see all the aspects of the positive aspects of his game. As you say, he does keep possession well, but it's one of them where you do get frustrated, and I'm not a typical kind of popular like get it forward merchant. I do see the value in keeping possession, but it's one of them where when you're at home and you're looking to be positive and you have got a few options ahead of you. It was just the way that he's almost a body language thing, that he was almost on the half turn, almost expecting to go backwards rather than being forced into going backwards, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and there's a lot of changes at the moment as Wing tries to constantly figure stuff out. Johnny, I mean, what do you think within the midst of all that? Is there anything for you that kind of says, okay, well, that needs to stick? Whether that's the defence was changed again this weekend with Williams back, Canavan out, midfield seems to be completely fluid, as is this who plays up front. In these games that have happened so far this season, is there anything that stands out as that being kind of fixed into the starting 11?
Well, I think the midfield, I know Harper didn't have his best game on Saturday, but I do think McCann is getting better every game. I think McCann and Harper, I think that's our best option. It was again positive to see Earing back on the pitch after his injury. But I think going back to Canavan out, I don't know why, and I don't think it's been mentioned before. I don't understand why he's not an option on the left of the three, because he played there when we were at our most successful, having been promoted or after being promoted to the Football League. So when we were at our most successful was Pete Wild's second season, the first half of the season, when we had Canavan on the left, we had George Ray in the middle, and James Chester on the right. So I don't understand why he's not being, or he might be on Saturday, I'm not sure, but I think he's certainly an option to come in there.
Yeah, maybe just doesn't know. He'll probably find out once he starts tampering with things even more. But yeah, I mean, what about you, Dave? I mean, it's so much back and forth, and I was asked a couple of weeks ago, and we're going through some beat and run on BBC Radio Cumbria, whether Barrow fans getting carried away, where can they start to measure some of their expectations now? And it was strange that on beat and run, because nobody really was. At every point we had to seem to fight for, and even the games we did win, like Walsall away, was sort of unexpected. So even through that whole period of time, the kind of result from against Cambridge doesn't really seem like much of an anomaly. And throughout all them games, as I mentioned to Johnny there, the team's constantly been kind of changed and tinkered with. Is there anything you'd be saying to Wing now to say, like, stick with that? That seems to be working.
Yeah, I mean, I think throughout the unbeaten run, we were kind of biting and scratching for points, weren't we? It wasn't exactly champagne football every week and 4s and 5s. In terms of change, I think sometimes the changes are kind of forced upon him in terms of, players getting injured or suspended or whatever it was. I actually think that I can understand why he made the change to the back three on Saturday, because we just kind of, we need someone who's comfortable with the ball at the feet and can bring it out. It's sort of in the way that Williams and Foley were comfortable doing at the back end of last season. So it wasn't just a case of three units lumping it forward. So I can understand why, with perhaps Shipley out and you're missing his pace compared to say Raglan and Canavan. I can understand why he put Jackson in, but it didn't really work. As I say, when I saw the team sheet, I thought, yeah, I can see what he's doing, and maybe up front I wouldn't have Gordon on the left-hand side of a three. So maybe I'd put Gordon back as that central striker with, say, Fletcher and Mahoney behind him, or equally play Gordon and Hemmings as a two and let Hemmings, be that physical presence and let Josh Gordon play off him. As I said, for me, I think I can understand why he did a lot of the things he was doing. It was just the execution of it kind of went a bit pear-shaped on Saturday. And again, I think he kind of alluded to it in his post-match interview. He wants them to go forward and take risks in the final third and be positive, but it's not primary school. He can't stop the game midway and say, right, stop. Look, everyone, where you're all standing. Josh Gordon, forward 20 yards. Conor Mahoney, turn round. You do that. He's got to rely on the players, and a lot of these players are experienced players with a decent number of games under the belt. But it's one of them. It's something that I've never played the game. I don't really understand the psychology of a team that kind of, either through lack of talent or lack of temperament, can't deliver on a game plan. If you're being told all week to be positive, go forward, do this, do that, and do the other, and then suddenly after 15 minutes on a Saturday, it's all gone to pot, is that the individual? Is that the group? I don't know. I mean, Johnny, you play at a decent standard. Maybe you could educate me.
I think it's a confidence thing, isn't it? We've been struggling for goals. We've been struggling for points all season. It's 100% a confidence thing with them. But I also want to touch on Cambridge as well. I mean, people have said, they hadn't won away from home in 4 matches, or they hadn't won away all season or something like that. But you have a look at the spine of their team. They've had players that have played hundreds and hundreds of games in the Championship. Some have even played in the Premier League. Some have played in the Bundesliga. We have to give them a little bit of respect and accept that they're not going to be a bad side no matter what they've done this season. They have a good squad, and I think we just have to manage our expectations there a bit.
Yeah, let's go to the soccer line, because then I want to come to something else that this kind of segues us in, and I think it's Beans' very own Fraser who left his thoughts after the game on Saturday.
07 yeah. 39, 60, 50. It's the Giving Beans soccer line.
My thoughts on the most recent couple of performances are that with Rob Kelly alongside Wing and Pede, these players can punch above their weight and could potentially have troubled the playoffs and been quite a competitive League Two side. I think this is a fairly average bunch of players, but when you've got someone like that on board, you can make them more than the sum of their parts. Without Kelly, I think we're a fairly poor League Two side, and our deficiencies, our inadequacies become more sort of obvious. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of too early to say, but maybe without Kelly, the aim is to just avoid relegation, stay in the division. I do believe calls for Wing to go are too premature at the moment, although a defeat away at Newport would be absolutely disastrous because they are very poor. I do believe it's a case of giving him and Ian Wood January to bring in some new players, namely, I think something in the forward positions. I believe, I don't know where Walker is. We obviously signed your man on loan from Huddersfield, the Perma Croc. I think Gordon's done a job, and I think Hemmings is probably good enough, but they should not be the first choice striker. I feel we need a focal point up there. We don't need a 20 goal a season striker. We just need someone who is a bit taller.
There we go. Very stuttery phrase there. I think he might have a few sherries or something. Just on that though, because he makes a point, and this has come up a lot after the game about Kelly. It seems like that question isn't really going to go away, especially now he's gone and the form has dropped after it, Johnny. I mean, how much do you factor in some of the things that Fraser was saying there.
Yeah, I don't want to put it all on Rob Kelly, but the evidence is there, isn't it? I mean, our points per game with Rob Kelly, I mean, not just this season, is significantly higher than probably our points per game without Rob Kelly. So I don't want to jump on that bandwagon, but I mean, let's see how Saturday goes.
Yeah, and do you think this is a problem, Dave, as well? Because even just sort of psychologically, really taking away what could be happening on the pitch or not under him, but now since bringing him in, since him going, that and the form kind of running parallels to him being here and him being gone. Like I said, that question is going to stick around now. And you commented in your match report as well about some kind of altercations between some of the people in the main stand and wing, and seen a lot of stuff online as well. It does seem like he's out there on his own a little bit now.
Yeah. It's really difficult, the Rob Kelly one, because obviously we're not on the training ground, so we don't see exactly what influence that he has day in, day out. And, Wing himself said that it was a comfort to him and to Craig Peed that when Kelly came in, he kind of assured them, that, yeah, you're on the right track, you're doing the right thing, you're giving the right messages. So I don't think there was a team meeting with Andy Wing and Craig Peed at the front, and then 5 minutes later there was a little side room and Rob Kelly was giving an alternative team talk, and these are the real tactics, lads, and this is what you need to be doing. So I'm kind of hesitant to kind of give him all the credit and say because he's gone, it's entirely because of that. What's the phrase? Correlation isn't always causation, or vice versa, or whatever it is. But yeah, it was noticeable on Saturday, obviously, when the second one went in, that as the main stand emptied, someone said something on the way out, and obviously you're very close, aren't you, when you're on them steps to the dugout. And Wing should really just turn around and just concentrate on the pitch and just think, not listening to it, it's just background noise. But I mean, it depends what was said, to be honest. Was it someone offering a really intelligent tactical insight, or was it someone giving him a cheap insult on the way out, which is what happens when football, crowds are on the way out after yet another defeat. I mean, we haven't won at home since that Crewe game. So if you're purely watching your Barrow football experience through the prism of home games, it's not been the happiest in the last couple of months. And, if that's, as I say, if those are the only games you're watching, and that's obviously fair enough, then you're not going to be happy maybe with the product on the pitch. But again, there's ways and means of transmitting that, isn't there? And as I say, we don't know what was said, but I highly doubt it was a constructive comment. Hopefully it didn't cross the line, but yeah, I think maybe Andy Wing just needs to just kind of turn around and look at the pitch and bite the bullet in those sorts of situations and just ignore it. And I don't know, maybe wait until the next home win and turn around and find that person and wish them a safe journey home after the next home win. But the important thing is to get that next home win.
He does seem to struggle with so, doesn't he, Johnny? I mean, does that worry you? He's kind of temperament at times. He always seems a bit on the kind of knife edge. It's not an ideal mentality to be a Barrow manager.
Yep, he's an emotional man. We know that, and I think Saturday topped off what was personally a terrible week for Andy. I think not only the football, I think he's had some bad personal news as well. So I just think it would all just came to a head on Saturday after the game, and he's possibly reacted in a way that he probably shouldn't have done. And like Dave says, managers and players are there. They play in a privileged position. They are there to be shot at. And I think perhaps if he hadn't had the news in the week that he'd had, he wouldn't have reacted. But I think it was just a bit of a perfect storm, and two bad results and a bad week for Andy resulted in a bit of a reaction. So fingers crossed he's a bit better this week.
And let's have it right. Nobody will be hurting more after a defeat than him. I mean, obviously, he's alluded to himself. It's his livelihood and it's his professional pride, isn't it? So, I'm disappointed driving home on a Saturday down the A590, listening to Radio Cumbria and all that sort of thing. But it's not. I can forget about it almost on the Sunday and the Monday. I've got my own job to go to. I've got my own kind of issues to deal with, and things I can influence, whereas he's got 20 odd people to motivate on Monday morning. He's probably got a board of directors who are asking him, what is there any chance of a home win at any time, Andy, because the crowds are dropping ever so slightly. So, you know, we've had managers in the past who I think have maybe not been quite as committed to the Barrow AFC cause as the rank and file, but I'm not putting Andy Wing in that bracket. I think he kicks every ball and he takes it as personally, if not more so than the rest of us. So, you know, I just hope he manages this week to, like we said before the Crewe game, get a bit of space and a bit of clarity so he can think clearly about putting in a resolution, or I don't know, maybe a resolution's a bit too strong, but, you know, making those tweaks that mean we're getting back on the right track. And going back to the Rob Kelly thing, again, that's where I think he maybe just needs that extra pair of hands on the training ground to kind of support him. And, you know, I don't think there's that many managers in League Two who are out there doing drills and, you know, kind of hands on the training ground. I think it's managers these days like to kind of observe, like set the training off maybe, but then observe. But if you've not got that extra pair of hands, then he's getting stuck in and he's kind of in the muck and bullets of it rather than being able to be a bit more, I don't know, not hands off, but, you know, being able to observe rather than be, you know, doing the do.
I think as well on social media, there was a few rumours that the comment had come from Paul Hornby that it was get it forward, but I mean, it hasn't been confirmed or denied just yet, so we'll have to wait for that one.
Yeah, stay tuned as well. We've got Paul Hornby's view on the budget today, so that's... let's move on to the game this weekend, and let's hear from the 1912 Exiles, a Newport County podcast.
Hello, you've reached the offices of Given Beans. All our beans operatives are busy getting it forward at the moment. Please leave your message after the beep.
Hello there, this is Ed from the 1912 Exiles podcast, the Newport County fans podcast. As you will know, it has been a very, very difficult start to the season for Newport County. We currently lie bottom of the entire 4th division. I'd love to say the only way is up, but I fear that is not true. I think a lot of Newport fans are looking at the table at the moment and thinking we are going to need a minor miracle to keep us up. We started the season expecting it to be difficult, and so it's proven to be. We have an extremely young, inexperienced squad, and we started the season with an inexperienced manager. Dave Hughes had come in, having previously led the Man United academy. Talked the talk, you know, seemed like a very pragmatic young coach in his first proper managerial job. And, you know, we liked him. He was doing his best with what I say is a very inexperienced group. But he just couldn't get results. I mean, we had a difficult start to the season in terms of fixtures, but the results were not forthcoming. And so, yeah, he paid the price, losing his job earlier this month, and has just been replaced by former Leicester City captain and Austria international Christian Fuchs, who has come in and so far only had one game in charge, and really... at Oldham last week, that was a game where he'd come in sort of 2 days before. So Barrow at Rodney Parade on Saturday will be the first game where Fuchs has had a chance to put his stamp on the team a little bit. But yeah, it's not been a good start to the season. We are struggling. We are shipping an awful lot of goals. You know, even against Oldham last Saturday, who have not scored that many goals, we let 3 in. And yeah, we are, I'm sorry to say, a very easy team to beat at the moment. And there is a sense that, you know, if we are going to do anything to climb out of trouble, then it has to start with a win against Barrow next Saturday. Newport County have not won a game at home in the league since before the clocks went forward back in March. So that gives you a sense of just how unhappy a hunting ground our home ground has been this season. And yeah, if Fuchs is to turn things round, then he needs to start doing it with some home wins and making Rodney Parade a fortress for us. So, you know, we're looking at the table and thinking, well, if we can't beat a lower half of the table side like Barrow at home, we probably are not going to see the turnaround that we need in our fortunes. So it is a big game. We do have most of our kind of core squad fit. I mean, the ones who we have been missing all season are Matt Smith and Liam Shepherd, the two of the probably most experienced names we've got in the dressing room, and so far they've barely kicked a ball in anger. which adds to our problems. They're not going to be in contention at all for Saturday. But other than that, the players who've competed for us so far are fit and healthy and ready. It's less about fitness and suspensions and all the rest of it. It's much more about, is the quality there? My prediction, I do think that we will see the players raise their game a little bit, because I think it's long overdue, and I think that new manager bounce might come. So I think we might scrappily get a 1-0 win. Whether that is ultimately going to be enough to start to turn the momentum tanker around for Newport County, I don't know. But we shall see how we get on. I hope you all have a very safe and pleasant trip down and enjoy your afternoon in Newport, apart from between 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock. And yeah, doubtless catch up with you later in the season.
Johnny, Mark, I'm going to come to you first because this is your type of brief. Because I don't know about you, I hated every little bit of that, hearing about how poor Newport were, how low scoring Oldham put 3 past them. What was that? Not a home win since the clocks were adjusted back in March. Over to you.
So yeah, I mean, they lost the last 4. They haven't scored in the last 3. They haven't won at home all season. I mean, we all know what's going to happen, let's be honest. But I mean, realistically, he did say they've got an inexperienced squad, they've got a young squad, and having looked at their squad, they've got a mixture of young players, some that have come from the Welsh leagues as recently as last season, and the other half of the squad seems to be ex-Barra players. Anthony Driscoll-Glennon, Courtney Baker-Richardson, and Jed Garner started their last game. So, I mean, you'd like to think we're going to have enough because they've been so poor. But, I mean, we've seen these sorts of scenarios before where, on paper, it's a straightforward game, but then in reality, it's slightly different.
Yeah, we had this before the Cambridge game as well, didn't we, Dave? And that guy was telling us about how their track record away from home, all the types of things that worries us ahead of the game. I feel more confident if somebody says they're firing out of all cylinders, they've not lost the game all season. I can see us causing an upset and run off to the bookies. But, I mean, even a new manager thing as well, that's another factor to throw in just to make it even more nervy.
Yeah, and it seems like they rolled the dice, doesn't it? Because, the new guy's he's not managed anywhere. He's done a bit of coaching in America. So it seems to me like it's going to be the most inspired move that anyone's made in League Two for a number of seasons. Or he's just going to put the tin lid on it and they'll be, relegated in fairly short order. And as the guy said there, they'll be looking at us thinking, well, if, Barrow arrived, they've lost the last 2. It gives us a chance, and they'll have that little scent in the nostrils of, well, if we can get at them, if we can exploit their weaknesses, if the new manager can inspire the kind of the team to heights they've not yet reached this season, then, who knows? I think it's good, the cliche stuff, but, the first 15, 20 minutes, we've got to be absolutely bang at it, because they will be, I'm sure, coming at us to try and put a marker on the game from the outset. So we need to be strong enough and good enough to deal with that. But as Johnny says, I usually look at the squad before doing these pods and think, picking out the kind of League Two thoroughbreds in the opposite squad, and it wasn't really leaping out to me in the Newport squad. Again, like Johnny, my eyes were drawn to the ex-Barrow players, and going back to that mindset thing about is the world going to end, or are we the best? Are we by far the greatest team the world has ever seen? My mindset is one of kind of quiet gallows humour pessimism, rather than the world's going to end pessimism. And I am a betting man. I will have a few quid on 1-0 Jed Garner for this weekend, because it'd be typical Barra soccer for that sort of thing to happen. But It's one of them. The neutral will look at it and think that we've got as good as chances as we've had in the last however many weeks of picking up 3 points. So again, I think it's down to I don't think it's even down to the teams or Wings mindset, because I think he does. You read a lot about he's too defensive and he's always happy with a point. I genuinely don't think that's the case. But I think it is down to the players. We've praised them in the past for turning games round and for playing well, and I think this is this is a game where, once they're on that pitch on the Saturday, they've got to kind of take a deep breath and steel themselves for that initial onslaught and kind of just show that they are good players. We keep getting told there's a good spirit in the camp and we've got quality. Let's go and prove it on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, how much is riding on this one though, Johnny? Because we mentioned before about that sometimes that feeling of a knife edge, never know whether you're looking up or never know whether you're looking down. If Newport do manage to win on Saturday, that would take to 14 points. We'd remain on 19 points behind them. And considering they're out and out, probably the worst side in the league this year, and the reaction after that loss on Saturday, I mean, shit's going to hit the fan, it feels like.
Yeah, the fans, it's on full blast at the minute. I don't think we're at that point yet. We're still in November. The game will still be in November by the time it's taken place. So I think it's too early for panic stations yet, and it's too early for, if we lose this, we're in real trouble. But I do have to admit, I am looking at other people's results that are below us, not necessarily in the other direction. So each week I pray that Newport and Harrogate or another below us are not winning. I think that does say a lot about the season so far.
I think the point is as well, it's going to say a lot about us. I mean, if we go down there and beat Newport, without, too much hassle, I think it can show these games against Cambridge are just a blip, and we are just that type of team where, from one week to the next, we can be a completely different outfit. I think the worry is, though, looking at it, the kind of glass half empty, that's Cambridge at home, Newport away, and then Tranmere at home. From them 3 games, I think we're talking on a podcast the other week, Dave, you're kind of looking for a decent enough return from them 3 games. It does get a little bit harder after that.
Yeah, I think, and again, harking back to the pre-crew pod when we said it's not must win, but it's must not lose. I really think psychologically, as much as anything else, we need to get something from the game on Saturday. And then that Tranmere game, we've said kind of Tranmere are a bit of an inconsistent team on the day. I mean, they did all right against MK Dons last week, but they've also had some shockers. I think it's just that the fact that we've not won at home since the Crew game. Your home form, I think, sets the temperature sets kind of like the vibe around the club. If you're not winning your home games, then that is obviously where the vast majority of our supporters watch the games. Albeit people watch on various methods for away games and that sort of thing. But I think your home form is key. So hopefully get something Saturday, beat Tranmere, and then we can again look at where the league table is. Look at those. I always look at like 2 games. Where does 2 games take you? Whether it's, or we could be in the relegation zone, or whether we could be top half, that sort of thing. And again, it just gives us a bit more breathing space going into the festive period, doesn't it? And Wigan, for me, I mean, we might talk about Wigan again later, but that doesn't matter either way, to be honest. If we go and beat them, fantastic. If we lose, doesn't really matter against a team, in a division above you. Need to get something these next 2 games. I'd say 2 points, absolute minimum, but preferably 4. Optimistically 6.
When you look at the reaction, sometimes that could be so kind of like a pendulum swinging from one opinion to the other. It really is just par for the course of being a mid-table League 2 football team. I mean, if you look at Newport now, they're points behind us, but go 7 points above us, and you're in kind of Salford territory. You'd feel have been kind of one of the better sides, but them dropping off recently has put them down to 12. So it's just where we are at the moment. We kind of feel we're a couple of bad games away from being pulled into a relegation battle, or a couple of good games away from being pulled into something that might look like a playoff contention position. So yeah, I think some of the panic is a little bit over the top, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the reaction if worse does come to worse on this Saturday.
I think over the course of a season, if you said to people, we'll finish about between 14th and 18th, most people would probably take that. But then when we lose a game, then it's the end of the world. And you think, well, hang on a minute. If you're happy and you've kind of come to peace with the fact that we're going to finish lower mid-table, well, lower mid-table teams tend to lose more than they win. You're going to lose a decent number of games over the season, so you can't say that you're happy to be lower mid-table and then absolutely lose the run of yourself when we do lose the odd game. And it is difficult. As I say, heat at the moment, you're walking out of Hull Street at 5 o'clock on a Saturday, you've just been beaten, it's doom and gloom. But yeah, sometimes I think the reaction goes a bit too far in terms of, it's the end of the world. You think, well, it's not, is it? If the world did end tomorrow, then we're not in a relegation spot, so we can go into eternity as a League Two club, can't we?
Yeah, and we've got nuclear submarines, so we might be responsible for it in many ways. But yeah, we're certainly an anxious bunch, us Barovians. But and if I could push you for prediction, Johnny, what would you say?
Heart says 2-0 to Barrow. Head says 0-0.
Dave, we don't normally do predictions, but as soon as that's one guest, may as well see the other.
No, we don't, because I said right at the start of the podcast that I hate doing predictions. I'll copy Johnny's work. As I said before, I will have a saver bet on Ghana 1-0 or something like that. But I tend to have a kind of an emotional bet on the opposition most weeks anyway, just to help boost the bank balance, even if the emotional bank balance has gone down a bit. But I'd be absolutely delighted to lose my money if it means that we're coming away from South Wales with 1 point or maybe even 3 in the bag.
Yeah. And Joe, actually, the only the positive I'll take from getting beat on Saturday is I'll be utterly convinced that we'll then be not Wigan out of the cup. It'd be so typical of us to lose the 2 games where we think we might win, and then to go away and knock a League One side out of the FA Cup and get a decent draw. So you just never know, and that's the beauty of football, and it always gives us something to talk about. And this pod, I mean, talking about Wigan, I think what we had, Dave, now I think we're about 1,500 tickets sold or something like that. Last update.
It's about that number, yeah. And the Trust, I think, have got 1, maybe 2 seats left on their buses. So maybe by the time this is published, they'll all be sold out. But yeah, I think most people have got the travel plans sorted out by now, haven't they? So yeah, if you are hesitating about how you're going to get there and you fancy it on the bus, then I'd get in very quickly on the Trust buses.
Yeah, and if you want to hear a story about Barrow's relationship with Wigan through the Northern Soul scene, head to our website where I've done a piece which is really just a love letter to the Barrow Soul scene, something I've always been very much connected to alongside the football. It's a really nice read and nice stories and nice quotes of people who back in the 70s would make that trip on the 8:50 train, I think it was, out of Barrow, that would get you into Wigan about an hour or so later for the casino to start at 1 o'clock in the morning, do the all-nighter, quick swim, freshen up in the morning and back to Barrow after that. So some great stories for people like Steve Ahern, big Barrow soccer fans, Gary Lynch, who was, I think he was a part of Beans back in the day. I think he was an anonymous writer for the, what was the referee called again, Dave?
Referee McFuddle, the man in the muddle.
Yeah, he's never confirmed that, but we have our suspicions, but yeah, he's in there. So yeah, it's just an opportunity for us to talk about a great story and do a bit of a cultural piece, which we do like to do. And of course, next week is a big week. Not only do we have the cup game on the Saturday, we're also off down to London on Monday for the Football Supporters Association Awards, where we're up for Fanzine of the Year. So I think we'll get an open top bus for that if we win it. What do you think? It's been a while since they've rolled that out in Barrow.
It might be like in 1990, he's got Lancaster City on the side of it or something like that.
Yeah. So anyway, and the fanzine is out. It's on sale. Those who are at the game on Saturday would have seen Punks and Steve walking around selling that. It's online, so you can go out there and buy it alongside the new long read that we've done about the Wigan Casino, the Barrow Soul scene. We've done a bit of merchandise there as well. So head on there and check that out. And I think that's it. Johnny Mac, nice one for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. I've enjoyed myself.
No worries. I'm sure we'll have you back. We just have to go round the other set now. Back to Phil, then to Andy, and then we'll come back to you. We don't want to cause any family controversies. So we're not asked Phil back yet. Actually, we better make sure we do that, Dave. He might be wondering when his turn is again.
Need a couple of weeks warning so we can turn the Wi-Fi on in south of Scotland.
Anyway, nice one, fellas. We'll speak again soon.
Nice one, Johnny. Come on, Barra.
Got me rounded from an